which his methods differ from our own, and above all, the principle of self-sufficiency of his small units are shown in the sequence that follows. This field, surrounded by dense woods, is covered by an Allied light machine gun team whose job it is to delay the advance of a German infantry platoon, one unit of which, called a Gruppe, occupies a point in the distant woods. You will have a close view of the German. Watch for the points that may help you to spot him under combat conditions. Learn some of his tricks. You may be able to put him out of action before he can accomplish them. The Allied position, an improvised, lightly defended outpost. In fact, the top portion of an abandoned armored car. A good field of fire is commanded here, for as you will see, all the cunning and firepower at the command of 10 enemy infantrymen will be required to storm and capture the strong point. A common sight in the German army, the sergeant as leader. He is very often a veteran of hard campaigns, perhaps even a military tactician in small-scale operations. Here you see him briefing his squad. He has drawn sketches, surveyed the terrain over which they must advance, and he has carefully planned each move. Now he passes on his instructions to the 9 men who look to him as leader. Making up his assault team are 6 riflemen and his 3-man machine gun team. 3 riflemen will attempt to work their way forward on the left flank, 3 on the right. Between the 2 will be the machine gun team. The right flank quickly working to find a position from which they can fire. Their job now is to occupy the Allied defenders while the left flank advances over a short stretch of open ground. Rapid movement is one of the principles by which the German hopes to overwhelm the opposition. However, in carrying out this principle, he usually employs every bit of concealment that the particular terrain affords. This is the left flank. The NCO will operate within, leading and giving his example of boldness and concentration on the swift fulfillment of his mission. The principal weapon, now about to go into action, the MG-34. 2 men operate it while the assistant behind gives supporting rifle fire. 7.92 millimeter or 31 caliber, the rate of fire is from 800 to 900 rounds per minute. Remember the sound of this and the other weapons used by this squad. Rechte Feuer, right flank fire. Having found concealed positions, the right flank concentrates on giving a steady stream of rifle fire, covering the forward movement of the more exposed left flank. Fire and movement, the principle underlying modern infantry assault. Fire, steady, accurate, and overwhelming. Movement, rapid and direct, toward the point to be taken. Controlling his men by means of hand signal, verbal command, very pistol, and by the simple means of the whistle, the sergeant advances with the left flank. 1 blast, right flank advance, 2 blasts, left flank, and 3 for the machine gun team. Behind the tree, the sergeant prepares to fire confusing bursts with the Schmeisser. Here he is merely contributing to the volume of fire, for deadly results with this weapon are limited to a relatively short range. Well forward now, the cycle is repeated. Move under the protection of the opposite flank, take a concealed position, and begin coordinated fire. Responsibility rests with the sergeant to build up the line of fire, choose the right moment to lay down his smoke, and make a final assault. A common deceptive trick is shown here, rolling over several times after hitting the ground. When the terrain seems suitable for this means of deception, watch out for it. Fire and movement. This is the principle behind the short, rapid advances. The steady, sharp reports of rifle fire from both flanks and the bursts of covering fire from the machine guns. The flanks have moved in closer and are converging for the final assault. Continuing its support, the machine gun team prepares to take a position in the closing circle of fire under cover of smoke. Your target is here, advancing between the two flanks. Because they seldom remain in one position very long, the Allied gunner has to be in his best form, alert and eagle-eyed, in order not to waste fire on a position that has been vacated. Allied bullets nearly have this man spotted. Notice the white hand showing through the brush. These Germans are flirting with trouble. They'll be out of the war quickly if they don't smear some dirt or mud on their hands. Lying between the left flank and the objective is that suspicious clump of bushes. Out comes the potato masher. Being constructed to deliver a maximum blast effect, its explosion will stun rather than cause injury by fragmentation. After tossing one, the usual method is to follow up immediately with the bayonet. Here, a prodding amongst the bushes reveals no occupant. Nebelansetzung vor. With his group well forward, the sergeant has called for smoke. In order to conceal their tactics, smoke is laid as close to the opposing force as possible. With this accomplished, they will form up for the general assault, first throwing in all their remaining grenades. With each man carrying from 3 to 6 grenades stuck in his boots or held in his belt, this assault is intended to confuse and overpower the opposition with sheer sound and fury. The attacking squad has succeeded in building up a line of fire, and opposition seems to have ceased. If the defenders had been present in force, the Germans would have organized an orderly retreat, withdrawing first one wing, then the other. The leader gives the command for general advance, both flanks and machine gun teams. The grenades open up the charge. No fire now from the defender. A screen of smoke covering their movement, they rush over the last few yards, closer and closer, every advantage of superiority in firepower and numbers being used. If there were a GI still sweating it out in this piece of abandoned armored car, we can only hope that he'll haul out right now and go join his outfit, because a very dirty trick is about to be played. Let's hope to an empty house. Often 6 or 7 of these potato mashers are tied together for a demolition charge. The objective has been taken. All members of the group will move in. Sergeant gives rapid orders, consolidates his position, organizes a defense. In a short time, the Allies may return to take back this little piece of territory. Remember that in this film you have seen a demonstration very near to the actual thing. In combat, however, it is unlikely that the enemy will present himself to your view in the same way. If you can see your enemy plainly, it usually means that you yourself are exposed. Also, a German soldier at a distance or in a semi-concealed position may not look very different from one of your own comrades. But his tactics differ. His manner of running from cover to cover is different. He has had training which, once studied, can give you a sure means of recognition. He is the barrier between you and the end of the war.
This is the assembly area of 2nd Squad, 1st Platoon. The squad has received its warning order and is now preparing for the coming attack. These preparations include distribution of extra ammunition and rations, checking weapons and equipment, and setting battle sites. Schaefer here has just joined the squad as a rifleman replacement. The Infantry Rifle Squad is the smallest tactical unit in the United States Army. It consists of a squad leader and 2 fire teams, Alpha and Bravo. Each team has a team leader, a rifleman, a grenadier, and an automatic rifle. Bravo has 1 extra rifle. Only 10 men, but when properly employed, and with each man doing his share, your rifle squad is a fighting team that is hard to stop. This is Sergeant Collins, the squad leader. He is just back from platoon headquarters. He received the attack order and made a visual reconnaissance of the area over which his squad will attack. He studied the terrain and checked the ground for cover, concealment, and good avenues of approach. Based on this reconnaissance, he made plans for the attack and decided which formations he will use. Reconnaissance reports the enemy is dug in on this hill. Several small groups of enemy have been sighted in this area. The platoon will cross the line of departure at 1200 hours to seize this high ground. 1st Squad will be on the left of 2nd Squad. 3rd Squad on the right for the assault on the final objective. There will be a 10-minute artillery and mortar preparation on Objective Sierra, the intermediate objective, and Objective Tango. The squad will cross the line of departure at this point and move along this route to seize the intermediate objective. Then the squad will rejoin the platoon for the attack on Objective Tango. 2nd Squad will be the lead squad and move out in squad column, fire teams in column. It is the base squad. Alpha team is base team throughout and will be on the right for the assault on both objectives. 2nd Squad will consolidate on Objective Tango from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. 12 o'clock is the direction of assault. Final coordination lines for Objective Sierra and Tango are indicated on this sketch. Ammo will be resupplied at Objective Tango. Company 8 post will displace to Objective Sierra on order. The platoon leader will be behind the 2nd Squad. The 1st platoon moves out in 30 minutes. At 11:15 hours, 1st platoon moves out of the assembly area in column formation. The order of movement is 2nd Squad, Weapons Squad, 1st Squad, 3rd Squad. As you move forward, search your area of responsibility for indications of the enemy. H-5, the supporting weapons begin preparatory fires, which will make the enemy take cover and reduce his effectiveness. The enemy is able to return its own planned artillery and mortar fire. When you receive indirect fire, you must move rapidly through or around the impact area. And in no circumstances should you stop to take cover. The squad movement is so regulated that the men move through the attack position without stopping and cross the line of departure at the specified time, 1200 hours, H-hour. The men are alert. Their weapons ready. Each man searches his area of responsibility. Comes under unexpected small arms fire prior to reaching the intermediate objective and returns fire immediately. If you are unable to see the enemy, move to a position where you can face well-aimed fire. In moving, take advantage of all available cover and concealment. Fire rapidly at any enemy you observe or at suspected enemy locations. Sergeant Collins looks around and locates a covered approach to the enemy's right flank. He signals the Alpha team leader to increase Alpha's rate of fire. And Bravo team leader to follow him on a maneuver left. The squad leader is using the technique of fire and maneuver. The mission of the maneuver element, in this case Bravo team, is to close with and destroy the enemy. This movement is supported by the base of fire laid down by the members of Alpha team. The men fire rapidly and accurately to maintain fire superiority. The maneuver element's principal job is to continue the advance toward the enemy. It uses available cover and concealment to the maximum, creeping and crawling when necessary. When Bravo reaches the covered approach, the men move to positions from where they can assault the enemy flank. The enemy position is pinpointed. As Bravo prepares to assault the enemy, Alpha continues to lay down a base of fire. With this fire superiority, Bravo assaults. Assault fire is characterized by volume, accuracy of fire, and aggressive movement. It is meant to demoralize and kill the enemy. Riflemen advance rapidly, firing either from the shoulder or underarm position. The automatic rifle is fired from the underarm position in short bursts. Grenadier is alert for targets which may hinder the assault. Assault fire also keeps the enemy down until he is killed or captured. The team leader moves in the center of his team, setting the example for his men. The squad leader moves behind the line where he can control the assault. As the maneuver team closes with the enemy, it masks the fires of Alpha, which now displaces forward to rejoin Bravo. Meanwhile, while Bravo has eliminated the enemy resistance and set up security. Be sure to search the enemy dead for papers, letters, or anything else which might be of intelligence value. Perhaps the duty roster with the unit designation. Sergeant Collins will pass this paper on to his platoon leader as soon as possible. With the unexpected resistance eliminated and the first platoon machine gun supporting by fire, second squad continues on its way to seize objective Sierra. The squad deploys into line formation prior to crossing the final coordination line. The final coordination line is a pre-designated line used to coordinate the lifting and shifting of supporting fires and the final deployment of a unit about to assault. It is located as close to the enemy as attacking troops can move before becoming dangerously exposed to friendly indirect fire. At the same time, the first platoon leader has the company 81 millimeter mortar fires shifted from objective Sierra to objective Tango. These fires include smoke rounds to help prevent the enemy on Tango from observing the attacking element. With the shifting of the mortar fires to objective Tango, the enemy on objective Sierra is now able to place aim fire on the squad. Effective enemy fire prevents an assault. Sergeant Collins decides to advance by fire and movement. This technique consists of one fire team, in this case Bravo, establishing a base of fire to pin down the enemy. While the other team, Alpha, advances toward the objective. Alpha advances as far as it safely can, depending on cover and concealment and the effectiveness of enemy fire. It now supports by fire the advance of the Bravo team. This manner of fire and movement by teams continues until the squad gains fire superiority. With the elimination of an automatic weapon, the squad gains fire superiority and moves into the final assault. At this time, the machine gunners shift their fire to objective Tango. You may have difficulty in locating definite targets. Don't make the mistake of withholding fire. An assaulting squad needs all the force and violence it possesses. Force and violence are security. You must deliver steady fire at known or suspected enemy positions. If your fire is continuous, the enemy does not know whether he is seen or not, and he will stay down in his hole or fire hurriedly and inaccurately. The assaulting squad now closes with the enemy. It assaults with so much force, the enemy panics and tries to run. The assault fire pays off. Make sure no live enemy have been bypassed. When the objective has been cleared, the squad rapidly consolidates and reorganizes. You must quickly take up positions to meet a possible counterattack. Your squad leader will come by and check your position and status of ammunition. Now, Sergeant Collins notifies his platoon leader that the objective is secure. He's moving out to rejoin the platoon. The platoon leader requests artillery and mortar concentrations on the objective. The supporting artillery and the company's 81mm mortars found the objective with high explosive and smoke shells. The supporting fires blast holes in the enemy's wire. Upon approaching the final coordination line, the platoon leader signals for a platoon line formation. At this command, each squad leader deploys his men on line. The platoon leader begins lifting the indirect fires which have been pounding the objective. As the indirect fires are lifted, the platoon machine guns increase their rate of fire on the enemy. Under less pressure from the indirect fires, the enemy in the second squad's area of responsibility takes the squad under fire. The squad faces a difficult task. In order to seize the objective, it must first get through the enemy's tactical and protective wire, then gain fire superiority. One of the men points out a break in the tactical wire. Sergeant Collins decides to move the squad into the enemy position by fire and movement. Under the covering fires of Alpha, Bravo negotiates the wire. Each man finds a covered and concealed position and quickly begins rapid fire. Now, with the entire Bravo fire team engaging the enemy, Alpha negotiates the wire. Sergeant Collins is hit. Sergeant Borden, the senior team leader, takes charge of the squad. He makes a quick estimate of the situation and decides to advance the teams by bounds, employing fire and movement again. Effective enemy fire hits the squad before the rush is completed. The effectiveness of enemy fires will determine the number of men who can be moved forward at the same time. In this situation, the enemy's strong firepower dictates fire and movement by moving only 2 men forward at one time under the supporting fires of the rest of the squad. In the face of continued effective enemy fire, Sergeant Borden decides to move the men forward just one at a time. This technique gives the squad maximum firepower and still permits the forward movement. Of the enemy fire, you must keep moving. You must get through the enemy's protective wire and continue the assault. In this situation, the M79 grenade launcher is used effectively. Fires a high explosive round with an effective casualty radius of 5 meters. With the squad's most dangerous threat eliminated, Sergeant Borden signals his team leaders to negotiate the protective wire. This movement is conducted under the covering fires of the rest of the squad. It will continue until the entire squad has passed through the wire at 2 points. Has worked its way forward by fired movement to within 30 meters of the enemy position. However, because the enemy's fire is still effective, the squad cannot assault the objective without incurring excessive casualties. Sergeant Borden decides to work his way into the enemy position at its most vulnerable point, the destroyed machine gun emplacement. The squad now increases its rate of fire. Alpha covering the enemy's left flank, Bravo the right. As Sergeant Borden and Schaefer work their way closer to the enemy machine gun position, the rest of the squad continues its high rate of fire into the remaining enemy position. Borden widens the break in the enemy's left flank. Schaefer eliminates a rifleman on the enemy's right flank. Courage, determination, and teamwork pay off. As the enemy's left flank is rendered ineffective, Alpha shifts its fire to the right flank position, which now receives the full impact of both teams. With the positions neutralized, you cross over the objective to the reverse slope. Prisoners should be searched immediately, then turned over to the platoon leader for disposition as soon as possible. The squad leader, assisted by his team leaders, consolidates the position and reorganizes the squad. Security is posted. Individuals cover likely avenues of approach, sectors of fire are coordinated. Automatic riflemen select principal directions of fire. Ammunition is redistributed. Casualties and prisoners are evacuated. The squad leader now reports to his platoon leader the accomplishment of his mission, the strength of his squad, and his requirements. Second squad has accomplished its mission with the minimum of casualties. This achievement was made possible by detailed planning, aggressive leadership, and consistent teamwork. These elements, coupled with the effective use of fire and maneuver, assault fire techniques, and fire and movement, spell victory for the rifle squad in attack.
The platoon has just received orders to carry out the still basic job of the military, attack the enemy and destroy him. With platoon leader Lieutenant Hadley rests primary responsibility for success and for the security of his 43 men. 3 rifle squads of 11 men each, a 9-man weapons squad, and a platoon sergeant, Sergeant First Class Brooks.
Take over, Sergeant. I'm going to get the attack order. As soon as you reach the assembly area, recheck the ammo. And make sure the men clean and check their weapons. Also, be sure the men you post as security stay alert. Now, we should move prior to 10 o'clock. I'll send Roberts to guide you and the squad leaders forward.
Yes, sir.
Captain Weber's D Company has been assigned to clearing the enemy from a strongly defended ridge as part of a renewed assault by the division. The attack begins at 1000 hours.
We will attack with 2 platoons on line and 1 in reserve. The first platoon will attack to seize the southeast portion of the ridge here. Lieutenant Hadley, your 3rd platoon will attack and seize the left portion of the objective. And be prepared to continue the attack to seize the high ground here on order. You have a frontage of 300 meters on the line of departure from this trail junction. Your left flank is open. An ambulance will be in the vicinity of the 2nd platoon. Aid station and company distribution point will remain in the same location. Emergency signal to shift indirect supporting fires, green star cluster. Initially, I'll be with the 2nd platoon. The time is now 0736. Any questions?
Sir, could we have the artillery mark the last round on the objective?
Yes. Carter, make sure your artillery people mark their last round. Find out what color smoke and let me know. I'll have the 4.2 mortars shift their fires first.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
No, sir.
No, sir. Well, that's it then. I'll be at my OP at 0815 for final coordination.
Lieutenant Hadley has about 2 hours to organize the best way to seize from a determined, well-dug-in enemy a ridge neither he nor his riflemen ever saw before. The formidable task becomes manageable by following 6 vital steps. The first, with no time to lose, is begin planning. Then make arrangements. Make reconnaissance, then complete plan of attack. And issue attack order to squad leaders. Supervise the attack. First Lieutenant Hadley decides how he will allot his time. Then begins preliminary planning of the attack. After arranging to meet with the squad leaders and coordinating plans with other platoon leaders, it's time to study the battleground.
Let's see now. If we move up on the right, initially we'll be in the open. That's bad. But there's good concealment once we cross the road, and it's a direct route to the objective. But we'll be approaching the enemy from the front, and the terrain looks pretty rough, so control will be difficult. How about straight up the middle? Initially, we'll be in the open here, too. It's the most direct route, but it's a low ground approach, and we'd have to hit them from the front. We get clobbered that way. Now, what about the left? It's a long route, but we can get up to high ground fast. Has good cover and concealment all the way. Then we can hit them from the flank. Yes. That's it.
With his attack plan formed, the lieutenant briefs his squad leaders, first by showing them the terrain, then by issuing his detailed attack order.
Now, here's the story. The enemy holds the ridge with an estimated reinforced rifle platoon. They're well dug in. Our company will attack with 2 platoons abreast to seize the ridge. First platoon on our right will seize the southeast portion of the ridge. Our left flank is open. Mortars from the Combat Support Company and direct supporting artillery will begin preparatory fires and smoke at H-5. 81mm mortars in general support will begin preparatory fires at H-2. Our platoon will attack at 1000 hours to seize the left portion of the objective, 900 meters to our front. We will cross the line of departure in platoon column and move along this route. First squad, weapon squad minus 1 machine gun. Second squad, third squad. 1 machine gun will support the attack initially from a position in the vicinity of the OP. We will assault from the right flank of the objective with 3 squads followed by the rocket launcher team. Both machine guns will support the assault from this knoll. Sergeant Jackson?
Lieutenant Hadley now spells out the job of each squad to Sergeant Jackson of the 1st Squad, Sergeant Harrison of the 2nd Squad, Sergeant Leonard of the 3rd Squad, and Sergeant Corelli of the Weapons Squad. The rifle squads are divided into 2 5-man teams, the smallest unit. The weapons squad packs 2 machine guns and a 3.5-inch rocket launcher, or bazooka.
The tentative assault line is at the base of the objective, about here. Initially, I'll move at the head of the weapons squad minus. I plan to be with the 2nd Squad during the assault. Sergeant Brooks, you'll move at the head of the 2nd Squad. Follow the 1st Squad in the assault. The time is now 0849. Any questions?
No,
sir. All right, I'll be in this vicinity if you want me. Move out. Sergeant Brooks, when you get back to the assembly area, check the number 2 machine gun and make sure the barrel's been replaced. Have the men move out by 0940.
Yes, sir.
Now let's get rid of this. Okay, let's go.
The lieutenant has left his squad leaders ample time to form their own plans and instruct their men before the platoon moves out at 0940. At H-5, the artillery opens up. Along with mortars from the Combat Support Company. At H-2, D Company's 81mm mortars go into action. At 1000 hours, the attack commences. The first squad leads the platoon across the line of departure. The enemy is 1,000 yards away, waiting. Dispersion is an ally of the attackers. The riflemen advance more than half the appointed distance when suddenly... First Squad's Alpha team returns fire, while the rest of the platoon takes cover. Sergeant Jackson of the First Squad discovers the source of the enemy fire, a well-hidden outpost. He believes that the platoon cannot continue attacking until the resistance point has been eliminated, and his squad cannot do the job by itself. He radios his report to Lieutenant Hadley. The platoon leader goes to the advance point to size up the situation and decide what action to take. He decides to use one squad to pin down the enemy outpost with rifle fire, while the rest of the platoon maneuvers toward it from the left. He radios his orders while the platoon sergeant and all squad leaders listen.
Place your machine guns and rocket launcher to the right of the first squad. 5. Stay with the fire support, but displace forward and rejoin the platoon as soon as your fires are masked. Acknowledge.
Hadley then instructs the mortar forward observer to have his fire shifted to the outpost. And that instruction is relayed. He then reports what he has done to Company Commander Captain Weber and gets his approval. Here we see another innovation, an immediate battlefield response to an unexpected situation through a radio communications net that links all elements of the platoon and the platoon with other units. Behind the metal screen of supporting fire, Lieutenant Hadley leads the rest of the platoon to close with the enemy. The maneuver element nears the enemy position. Lieutenant Hadley signals a platoon line formation for the assault. Assault fire is characterized by volume, accuracy, and violence of action. Riflemen fire aimed shots every 2 or 3 steps at known or suspected enemy targets. The M14s on full automatic fire from the hip in short bursts, covering the squad front. For personal protection, the riflemen wear body armor. The support fire teams now move forward to join the assault force. And the enemy outpost is taken. Lieutenant Hadley reports to Captain Weber. And the platoon resumes its advance against the main objective. Enemy artillery and mortars have other ideas. When an attack force is hit by such fire, it must move quickly through or around the impact area. As the platoon approaches the assault line, Lieutenant Hadley orders his machine guns into position to support the attack. Then, once again, he orders the platoon line formation for the final assault. Positions himself for optimum control of this final phase. Full control, as we have seen, is an earmark of today's infantry operations. It is the antidote for the nemesis of battle since the dawn of history, confusion. As our troops near the enemy line, supporting fires are shifted, and the enemy takes advantage of the situation. These are today's riflemen in action. With the objective taken, the platoon immediately prepares to press its advantage or repel an enemy counterattack. This is where the tradition of American riflemen stands today, carried forward by great advances in weapons, training, and tactics, but still relying on the same character of the men.
I may help you out there with some place some trees in here. So
At ease, take your seats. All present, Sergeant? Yes, sir, all present. Let's get going on our subject for this evening, the battle formations of the platoon. Since you are non-commissioned officers, and a platoon is normally commanded by an officer,
Some of you may wonder why we are tackling the platoon, what concern it is of yours. There are 3 reasons. First, your squad is part of the platoon team. And if you're going to play effectively on that team, you've got to know how the team functions. Second, we Americans always do a better job if we know the why of that job. Therefore, I want you to learn all the answers before we get into a scrap, because there's no time for explanations on the battlefield. Third, many of you are going to be commanding platoons before this fight is over. Some of you will command companies. A few may even command battalions. Therefore, I want every non-com in this outfit to know everything there is to know about the platoon. I want every one of you to be able to step into your platoon leader's shoes if the need arises. What's more, your platoon leaders and I will see that you have plenty of practical experience in this before we tangle with A. Hitler's goose-steppers, Mussolini's invincible lions, and Mr. Hirohito's sons of heaven. We're going to study the battle formations of the platoon in much the same way that we studied those of the squad. We're going to stress why and when these various formations are used. In considering the formations of the platoon, we must bear in mind that the formation adopted in any given situation must solve or help to solve 3 basic problems that always confront the platoon leader. These are: 1, security; 2, maintenance of direction and control; 3, minimum vulnerability to hostile fire. Each of these problems varies according to the situation in which the platoon finds itself. For example, an interior platoon may only have to provide protection to the front, arrange for sight contact with the units on its right and left, and provide the usual anti-aircraft lookouts. A platoon on an exposed flank will have to supplement these measures by a strong flank patrol. A platoon carrying out a job away from its company will have to go the whole hog and protect itself to front, flanks, and rear. The problem of maintaining direction and control also affects the formation of the platoon. Often it conflicts with our other problem, minimum vulnerability to hostile fire. For example, the platoon column is the easiest of all platoon formations to control. But on open terrain, or under threat of air attack, the platoon leader may have to abandon the easily controlled platoon column in favor of a more dispersed formation, such as this, in order to reduce its vulnerability. The matter of reducing our vulnerability to hostile fire is largely a question of not being seen. If the enemy can't see us, he can't hit us. Take a look from the enemy's point of view at this ground represented on the sand table. Sight along this terrain, and what do you see? Nothing. Now take a look from the top side, and you can see why. The platoon leader has adopted a formation to take advantage of the cover and concealment afforded. If he had ordered his squads to deploy into squad wedges, we might have had this. Watch. You can see from this one small illustration how the formation adopted by the platoon leader may conceal or help to conceal his unit from hostile observation and therefore protect it from hostile fire. And also how an ill-considered formation may expose a unit to hostile observation and invite fire. Remember the lesson. A unit seen is a unit fired on. Fix these 3 factors in your mind. Remember, a good platoon leader always considers them before prescribing a formation. You must learn to do the same thing. For as I said before, someday many of you will find yourselves leading a platoon in battle. Now is the time to learn how. It's too late to learn when the fate of some 50 men is suddenly placed in your hands. Let's turn now to a brief consideration of what we might call the formal formations of the platoon. That is, the formations that you practiced in your extended order drill. First, let's take a look at the platoon column. The platoon column, like any column formation, is easy to control. It reduces to the simple game of follow the leader. The platoon leader picks the best way forward within his zone of advance, and the platoon follows. It's a good formation to use in an approach march over broken terrain beyond the range of enemy small arms fire. The ease with which direction and control are maintained also make it a valuable formation to use at night or in other conditions of low visibility. Here, let me inject a word of warning. Seldom, if ever, is this a suitable formation for the platoon to use when it's on its own, because it lacks maneuverability. It's a clumsy formation to handle. Are there any questions? Good. Then let's take a look at our next formation and see what it has to offer. From your extended order drill, you recognize this as the platoon in line of squad columns. You also remember that in this formation, the center squad is the base squad. The other squads of the platoon maintain their direction and relative distance by guiding on this base squad.
Question, sir.
Okay, Corporal.
I'm begging your pardon, sir, but it's never been quite clear to me about that base squad. How does it know where it's going and it with nothing at all to steer by, sir?
All right, Corporal Clancy, let's take a look. You are commanding the center or base squad in this platoon. Here is your platoon leader. He may indicate the direction or route you are to follow in a number of ways. Here are a few. He may simply indicate the direction of advance by pointing or moving in that direction. This. You follow him with your squad. The other squads conform. Or he may point out some distant feature, such as this red barn, or this railroad cut, or this blasted tree, and tell you to guide on it. In which event you lead your squad in that direction, taking full advantage of all cover and concealment offered. The other squads conform. Or the platoon leader may give you a compass reading, an azimuth, and tell you to march on that azimuth. In other words, Corporal, the platoon leader will always let the leader of the base squad know where he is to go. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. That it does, and thank you, sir.
Good. Here are the points we should remember about this formation. It presents a dispersed and inconspicuous target to the enemy, and it enables the platoon to bring its full striking power to bear to the front at a moment's notice. This characteristic makes the line of squad columns the ideal formation to use in delivering an enveloping or flanking attack where the full striking power of this platoon is to be used in one smashing blow. Except in situations of this sort, the line of squad columns is a poor formation to use. The reason is this: no provision is made for a support or maneuvering unit. In this formation, the entire rifle